I'm Harrison Graham. Here's what we got coming up on Chicago Bears Now. The latest injury news on the Bears and the Bengals, including the latest on Joe Flacco. Is he expected to play here in this game on Sunday or not? And then it's Coordinator Thursday at Hallis Hall. That's when the three Bears coordinators always talk to the media. So we'll hear Dennis Allen's thoughts on the C.J. Gardner-Johnson signing and Declan Doyle sounding off on the Bears penalty and red zone woes. So want to dive into those things here on today's show. Let's start with the injury stuff, though. We'll get to the Bears first here as some positive updates for the most part on today's injury report. One potential negative update that I do think is worth getting into. Let's start with the positive, though. Tyrique Stevenson was a full participant today, so all signs point to him being back on Sunday, which that's obviously a huge development for this defense and for this secondary, because now you're kind of getting two starters back because you signed C.J. Gardner-Johnson. He may not be full up to speed, but I would expect him to play a decent amount in this game. You got Tyrique Stevenson back as your top outside corner, Nahshon Wright as a CB2 you feel more comfortable with, and then your two safeties, Kevin Byard and Jaquan Brisker, who for the most part have been good this year. I didn't think Brisker was good last week, but for the most part, those guys have been solid. Heading into the year, if you said this would be your week 9 starting secondary, it might be some interesting looks from Bears fans, but compared to last week when Jalen Jones and Nick McLeod were playing a lot of snaps, that sounds a whole lot better heading up against Jamar Chase and company this Sunday. Now, elsewhere on the injury report, on a positive light, 3 of your top 4 receivers, after not practicing yesterday, returned today. Now, they were limited, but Rome Odunze, who we'll get to in a second, been dealing with a heel issue. DJ Moore, that hip groin situation that he's been battling through. Then Olamide Zaccheaus with a knee. They all missed practice on Wednesday, but returned to practice on Thursday in a limited capacity, so that's arrow pointing up. Kmet limited for a second straight day, so we'll see what his status is come Friday. Now, as far as Rome Odunze goes, he spoke to the media after today, which is always a good sign. When a player speaks to the media, that almost is always a signal that they are playing. He said that his heel injury has been a, quote, progressive thing that he's dealt with throughout the season, and the Baltimore game was where it was at its peak. He was limited today and said he'll be ready to go in Cincinnati. So that's a good sign, even if that heel's not 100%. He's obviously been pretty darn good this year. Now, Luther Burden, I wouldn't expect to have him this week. He was a DNP again with that concussion. It's rare these days in the NFL where you get concussed on a Sunday and play the next game, so I would expect he is out, but we'll see if there's any progress Friday. DeAndre Swift, we'll get back to him in a second. He's been dealing with a groin issue for weeks now. I have some just thoughts on that. Roschon Johnson, DNP with his back injury. Dominic Robinson, we know, is out this week with that high ankle sprain. I still wonder, is there a chance he goes on 4-game short-term IR? We'll see. And then Joe Thuney with a rest day. I think Thursdays moving forward are probably going to be a day where they give the veteran Thuney a day off in terms of the physical workload. I do wonder with DeAndre Swift, he's been on the injury report for weeks and isn't doing much early in the week. And then, by Thursday, Friday, he starts to do stuff. Well, this week didn't do anything today. He's been limited on a lot of Thursdays and then full go Friday. So didn't do anything today. So I wonder, has this groin thing just kind of slightly deteriorated by week? And he could keep playing through it, but if you give him a week off, could he be closer to 100% moving forward? Look, where the Bears are at, they need him out there if he can play, but I do wonder if there's a world where he sits this week. Now, if that's the case, and if Roschon Johnson's out, you would almost certainly have to elevate Britton Brown, who did some good things in the preseason, but it would be Kyle Monangai, Travis Homer, and probably Britton Brown. Is that good enough against a bad Bengals defense? I don't know, but if this Swift thing is going to continue to get worse, which it seems like it maybe has a little bit, I do wonder if they try to sneak a game off for him at some point to try and heal up that groin. Keep an eye on his status on the Friday injury report. All right, who you got this Sunday? Type CHI for the Bears or CIN for the Bengals. Pivotal game for both, as the Bengals, if they lose, their playoff hopes are really in shambles. And if you're the Bears, you get that split, head home 5-3 to face the Giants, feeling pretty good about where you're at. Okay, Joe Flacco, what is the latest with him? He returned to practice today, was listed as limited as he's been dealing with that shoulder injury. Yesterday Zach Taylor called him 50-50 I would say with him returning today, that's got to be an increased number at this point in time. Paul Denner Jr., who covers the Bengals for The Athletic, said, encouraging comment from Jamar Chase in his press conference today. He said Joe Flacco played, quote, regular, looked the same in practice today. Quote, I didn't know he was injured for real, close quote. Flacco returned to practice as he's dealing with that AC joint sprain. Again, Zach Taylor called him 50-50 yesterday. I think he's playing on Sunday. Joe Flacco's a vet. He doesn't need a ton of practice work. Anyways, with how long he's been in the league. And even he knows, too, it's like if we lose this game, we're done probably. So I would expect him out there even if he's not 100%. And, I saw a few clips of him throwing the ball on social media today. It looked fine to me. So it doesn't seem like a severe thing with that shoulder. What about Trey Hendrickson? Well, he did not practice for a second straight day with that hip injury. And usually, now he's a vet, so it could be different. Usually when guys miss practice Wednesday, Thursday, because those are the big practice days. Friday is always a lighter practice. Usually that means a guy is out. Now, he's a vet. He probably falls into that category if he could play, if he's ready to go by Sunday, if he doesn't do anything during the week. But I think there's a world where tomorrow he's a DNP again and already ruled out. Now, we'll see. We'll obviously keep an eye on that and have it covered if there's any major information there. But tomorrow will be telling of his status. I would say if he's not at least limited on Friday, his chances for Sunday probably dip below that 50-50 status and could even be ruled out after re-aggravating that hip injury on Sunday. And obviously, he's a big name for this game because he's by far their best defensive player. And a guy like Theo Benedict lining up against him, that could cause some problems. But also, after this game, not only necessarily for the Bears, but the whole league. Like, would the Bengals consider trading him if they lose this game and fall to 3-6? So a lot of attention on Trey Hendrickson over the next 4 or 5 days. All right, subscribe to the channel. We are trying to get to our next milestone of 137,000 subscribers. If you're part of the 136 and change, we appreciate you very, very much. I have people messaging me all the time. Man, I was there at 10K, 20K, 60K. The growth has been insane, and it's all because of you guys. So we appreciate the support. We're here every single day for free content. If you want to be a part of this family, hit that subscribe button, turn on those notifications. All right, coming up, we are going to react to some things that Dennis Allen and Declan Doyle said at Hallis Hall earlier today. Thursday is always the day when Bears coordinators talk to the media. So want to pass some of that along to you and react myself. But first, do got to tell you guys about our awesome sponsor, Ethos. Life insurance is one of the most important investments you can make in your family. And now with Ethos, you can get covered and protected in minutes with rates as low as $2 per day billed monthly. You can also get up to $3 million in coverage. Look, as a husband, a father, having life insurance, it's not something I take lightly. And for those out there that are in my boat as well, you shouldn't take it lightly either. Ethos is revolutionizing the insurance industry with a 100% online process and can provide protection for you and your loved ones. With Ethos, you can get life insurance in as little as 10 minutes. They have no medical exams, just a few easy health questions online. Their 100% online and hassle-free process makes it easy to apply. You'll get a quote in as little as 10 minutes. You can get same-day coverage without ever leaving your house. How about this? As of March 2025, Business Insider named Ethos the #1 no medical exam instant life insurance provider. Pretty awesome stuff. Protect your family with life insurance from Ethos. Get up to $3 million in coverage in as little as 10 minutes at ethos.com/NFL Daily. That is ethos.com/NFL Daily. Application times may vary. Rates may vary. That link is in the comments and description of this video. Go check out Ethos today. All right, Dennis Allen. Obviously, I was curious to see what his comments and thoughts were going to be after the C.J. Gardner-Johnson signing. He obviously coached him his first 3 years of his career in New Orleans. So he sounded off on that plus more today. Let's start with his thoughts on Gardner-Johnson. He said, I think he's a highly competitive player. He goes out there and competes on every single play. He brings a little attitude to the football team. And, Kevin Byard said something yesterday that I agree with, and that is that most good teams, and especially defenses, they always have that dude that just kind of has a little extra juice. He really toes that line. Tyrique Stevenson, Jaquan Brisker, they got some of that in them. But this guy really, he probably crosses the line at times, let's be honest. But, sometimes you just need a prick, right? You just need an asshole on your team. And I'm not saying he's that, like, as a person, but, like, this guy is going to run his mouth. Now, you can't do it to the point where you're costing your team with constant penalties and stuff, but this guy will get under opponents' skins. We've seen that here in Chicago 5 years ago. He did it in 2 different games, but he also has the play to back it up. He's not a superstar, but this is a nice football player. He's versatile. He had 6 interceptions just last season for a Super Bowl winning team in the Philadelphia Eagles. 18 career picks. He's gotten his hands on 51 balls. Dennis Allen, in his first 3 years, they played him primarily at nickel, and that's what he's going to be doing in this defense. You know what they did a lot with him? They blitzed him. Guess what? This pass rush stinks. So I would guess they're going to do more of that with C.J. Gardner-Johnson. So I'm excited to see what he can do. I don't think we should have all-pro expectations. I think in the near term we should have, okay, he's going to be more impactful than Nick McLeod, and hopefully as a couple weeks go on, he gets, up to speed fully and, back into full game shape and all of that. That should be the hope. That should be the expectation. So I'm excited to see what he can do. I like him reuniting with Dennis Allen for a multitude of reasons. DA also was asked about Austin Booker and said he's been outstanding in practice. Now, I do wonder a little bit about that because they waited until the last second of that practice window to activate him. And it just, when you see things like that, because typically when you open a 21-day practice window, unless there's a setback with the injury, 9 times out of 10, that player returns that first week or the second week. He didn't even return the third game, technically. They activated him the Monday after this past game, or even on Tuesday. So they waited till the last second of that 21-day window. So, what does that tell me? Like, were they upset with how he's practicing? Maybe there was a minor setback early on in that process. Maybe they just really liked what the other guys were providing, but, I don't know how that could be the case. The pass rush has been non-existent. So I'm not saying DA is lying, but I do wonder why it took so long for them to activate him. But now with Shamar Turner out for the year, Dominique Robinson set to miss at least a couple games, they need Austin Booker, even if he's not going to be that physical, run-setting edge. If he can get after the quarterback every once in a while, that would certainly help because no one on this team has more than 3 sacks in 7 games, which is not ideal whatsoever. This is an interesting question for you guys. Who do you think has the bigger impact on Sunday? First game as a Bear this season for both these players. Type AB for Austin Booker or CJ for CJ Gardner-Johnson. Bigger impact Sunday. You guys let me know in the comments below. All right, let's shift over to another coordinator, Declan Doyle. They are emptying the chamber in terms of trying to fix these penalty issues. He had an interesting answer when asked about the Bears' penalty problems, as they are second in penalties per game this year at 9.1, only behind Jacksonville, and a decent amount of those self-inflicted with the pre-snap issues offensively. Here is a snippet from Adam Mahogue, CHGO. I want to give him credit here for kind of putting this out in the social media universe. He said, Declan Doyle said they've reviewed every penalty from the entire season and have resorted to, quote, some unorthodox things, close quote, in practice to get it cleaned up. Quote from Declan Doyle, it's something we're addressing and is really important for us to stay on schedule. That's, ahead of the chains, that type of stuff, second and medium, third and short, instead of, a penalty shooting them back to third and long, stuff like that. I would love to know what those unorthodox things are, but I am glad that this staff is, turning every stone to try and nip it in the bud. Obviously, the players have to just clean things up, too. That's obviously a big part of this, but let's face it. 2 things are holding this offense back from being average to above average, which is what they are right now. They're 12th in yards. They're moving the ball, to good, if not great. I think there's a world where by the end of this season, we're like, man, this is a pretty damn good offense. It's penalties and red zone woes. You clean that up a little bit, no one's saying perfect, but better than what it's been recently, I think you at least enter that consistently good offensive territory. Here's what Declan Doyle had to say on the red zone issues. He said, the red zone struggles have been on all of us. As you look at them sequentially, pulling up that last game, you might look at it and say, hey, there's one play. I look at it and say there's 4 plays that if our precision and our detail is better on any one of those 4 plays, we probably come away with 7 points in both of those first 2 drives. And that's the thing that we have to really hone in on. There's no magic answer. If there was, we'd be going out and doing it. It's really our ability to execute, Be precise on the details with what we're asking guys to do in those critical moments are going to lead to 7s rather than 3s. And we talked about this. I did a full video, 3 big things the Bears got to clean up. Red zone, penalties, and then we talked about special teams, especially in those coverage units, which has been a problem. The Bears started 6 for 7 in the red zone, okay? Since then, they're 5 for 16. So overall, they're under 50%. That's 26 in the NFL. 5 for 16, 31%. If that was like the season-long percentage, that would be dead last by, I think, like 7%. I think dead last for the whole season is like 38%. That's not good enough. I mean, 50% wouldn't even crack top 20, and that would be a huge jump for where you've been the past 4 games. If you're just 8 for 16 the past 4 games, you probably beat Baltimore, and a couple of those other games probably aren't as close as they should be, if we're being completely honest. You fix these 2 things, you're cooking with gas. Now, I'm not expecting to go from 5 for 16 over a 4-game sample size to 13 of 16 the next 4 games, but can we be 9 for 16? Can we be 10 for 16? Can we cut the penalties down from 9 per game to 7 per game? I mean, that right there is almost a 20% jump just for 2 less penalties per game. I think these are achievable benchmarks for this football team and for this offense. And despite all of that, you're still 12th in yards per game. You're still scoring 24 points per game, which is 16th in the NFL, despite the disastrous red zone woes over the past month. If you were like in these statistical areas with what we've seen in previous years, we're talking about one of the worst offenses in the league. So you're still having success despite these problems. So if you can clean these things up, a lot of which are in your control, some of the red zone, sometimes defenses are going to make a play. We understand that. But if you just get better there, more efficient, cut down the penalties, I think this offense has a chance to be in that top 10 range this year. So I still am holding out hope that that can happen. I don't see why we shouldn't believe there's a chance it could, because we know this team can move the ball. It's about executing and finishing when it matters the most. All right, that's going to do it for this episode of Chicago Bears Now. Appreciate everybody for tuning in. Keep an eye on that injury report. If there's big developments on Friday, we'll hit you guys with another video, so stay tuned for that. Subscribe and bear down.